Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so you friends see it. Thank you.
Trump just sent huge message to Dems with how he lit up the White House last night. President Donald J. Trump and First Lady Melania have just sent a huge message to the Democrats about how they lit up the White House. It was a message to millions of people around the world to let them know they were important and everyone cares for them. It was a message to Democrats that the people in charge of the White House have a much bigger message to Americans and that they are not what the mainstream media portrays them to be. So many people have turned the White House into a building filled with monsters, but the real monsters are the people who fail to see the positive aspects and doings of the sitting president. The country needed change and they voted it in. The White House was there, shining in glory, with a fine shade of blue. This was for World Autism Day, which was celebrated on Monday, April 2, 2018. This year marks a special time in American history as the White House was lit up and sending a message to all who care, and even those who don't care. It was a wonderful symbol that showed compassion and kindness. Many people criticize President Trump and label him numerous different things. Some say he's horrible, he's a tyrant, he's this and that. However, the truth is the opposite. He's none of those subjective opinions, and he and Melania certainly do care about the well-being of the American people. Trump may not be the most presidential president in the sense that he's not a politician, but he's certainly more caring than many people believe. He's all about America, and that's something critics can't take away from him. This statement was posted on the White House website regarding World Autism Day. World Autism Awareness Day is an opportunity to recognize and support all children and adults with autism spectrum disorder, ASD. Today, millions of adults and an estimated 1 out of every 68 children in the United States have been diagnosed with some form of ASD. Notwithstanding these diagnoses, Americans with ASD make exceptional contributions across our nation and around the world. On this day, we honor their accomplishments and recommit to ensuring that they enjoy the same opportunities to fulfill their potential that all Americans deserve. To maximize the quality of life across the entire autism spectrum, we must ensure that ASD is accurately identified and diagnosed in both children and adults. We must also support access to effective care, critical resources, and support services. To further these important goals, I was pleased to sign into law the Recognize, Assist, Include, Support, and Engage, RAISE, Family Caregivers Act, which will provide a national framework to support families as they care for loved ones with ASD and other similar conditions. My administration also continues to focus on young adults with ASD. The Department of Health and Human Services, in accordance with the Autism Cares Act of 2014 and in coordination with other executive departments and agencies, has released a report that details services available for young people with ASD as they leave secondary education to help them transition to adulthood. In addition, the department's Interagency Autism Coordinating Committee ensures robust engagement with people with ASD and their families to help inform policies and priorities. My administration remains focused on this critical work and committed to advancing initiatives that improve the lives of those living with ASD. On World Autism Awareness Day, let us renew our commitment to support the entire international ASD community, including children and adults with ASD, their families, and caregivers. Together, we can increase access to information, encourage heightened understanding of ASD, promote respect and dignity, and support the services that assist people with ASD to reach their full potential. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim April 2, 2018, World Autism Awareness Day. I encourage all Americans to learn more about autism, and find ways to support people with autism and their families and caregivers. The White House, Donald Trump, and Melania Trump made a great statement that supports those with autism. It's wonderful to see such a statement come from the biggest house in the nation as the blue lights glisten over DC. Did former President Obama ever do this? California has problem with authority, Trump just spanked them with bad news. Rebellious California has a serious problem with authority, and President Donald Trump just spanked them with some bad news that you don't want to miss. It's about time the Golden State learned a little something about federal law. According to Fox News, the extreme environmentalists in Sacramento have just gotten a rude awakening from Trump's EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt after he announced that some of the federally approved privileges that California enjoys are going to be re-examined. Most notably, Pruitt talked about the radical Obama-era emissions regulations and California's previous push to have even stricter emissions laws than the federal government. On Tuesday, April 3, 2018, Pruitt laid out his plan to roll back Obama-era fuel standards, which many see as a huge win for the automakers and the American economy. This is bad news for California, which more or less leads the way for over a dozen states with emissions regulations that surpass those passed by the EPA. As a result, the Golden State has driven many businesses to other states and hurt their own economy with unreasonable emissions controls. In regard to federal regulations, Pruitt said, "These standards that were set were inappropriate and need to be revised," during a speech at the EPA in Washington, D.C., adding that the rules are too expensive and hurt car buyers by making vehicles costlier. Pruitt spoke directly about his goals and specific reasons for wanting to roll back Obama-era emissions regulations. "The focus should be on making cars that people actually buy and that are efficient," he said. Pruitt's decision to overhaul the nation's first carbon limits on automobiles, which requires cars and light trucks sold in the U.S. to average more than 50 miles per gallon by 2025, shows a joint effort between the country's automakers and the Trump administration to recreate a decimated car industry. "This was the right decision, and we support the administration for pursuing a data-driven effort and a single national program as it works to finalize future standards," the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers, which includes Ford, General Motors, and Fiat Chrysler, said in a statement. "We appreciate that the administration is working to find a way to both increase fuel economy standards and keep new vehicles affordable to more Americans." The announcement wasn't music to everyone's ears, however. California immediately pushed back as the EPA's announcement went public. Now, a legal battle over California's privilege to have stricter emissions regulations than the federal government is sure to ensue. California passed its own Clean Air Act in 1970, allowing it to set its own greenhouse gas emissions standards. The liberal-run state is able to maintain that kind of autonomy based on a waiver it has with the federal government, which Pruitt now says will be under review. The smack talk had already begun a day earlier in Sacramento, according to the Associated Press. The Trump administration's assault on clean car standards risks our ability to protect our children's health, tackle climate change, and save hard-working Americans' money, California's militant Attorney General Xavier Becerra said in a statement on Monday. "We're ready to file suit if needed to protect these critical standards and to fight the administration's war on our environment." California didn't become the sixth largest economy in the world by spectating, Becerra added. Over a dozen other state attorney generals joined Becerra on Monday to rebuke the Trump administration for the rollback, calling it irrational and irresponsible, while vowing to vigorously and aggressively challenge President Trump's dangerous anti-environmental agenda in court. Pruitt handled the situation with class. In regard to California's nasty attitude, he said that cooperative federalism doesn't mean that one state can dictate standards for the rest of the country. EPA will set a national standard for greenhouse gas emissions that allows auto manufacturers to make cars that people both want and can afford, while still expanding environmental and safety benefits of newer cars, he added. "It is in America's best interest to have a national standard, and we look forward to partnering with all states, including California, as we work to finalize that standard." I applaud President Donald Trump and his EPA boss Scott Pruitt for taking the bull by the horns. States like California think they are above federal law in so many different ways. As the Golden State politicians get ready for a legal battle over emissions regulations, it will be interesting to see them try to convince their voters that living under needless and expensive regulations is better. Illegal aliens freak when they see nasty surprise Trump has waiting at border. Illegal aliens, marching through Mexico toward the U.S. border, are freaking out after seeing the nasty surprise President Donald Trump has waiting for them. Democrats are going to need a new way to get voters after this. According to Politico, President Donald Trump said on Tuesday, "We are going to be guarding our border with our military." The shocking announcement about Trump's new plan came during a White House meeting with the leaders of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. "In my opinion, it's about time that Trump sent our military to guard the border." Not only did he reveal his plan to have military personnel guard the U.S.-Mexico border, but the president also indicated how long he intends to keep them there. Mexico, if you look at the caravan of thousands of people coming across, I told Mexico, "Look, you have a cash cow in NAFTA. NAFTA's been great for Mexico. It has not been good for the United States. A lot of businesses have closed down because of NAFTA. You look at empty plants all over the place, and this is from years ago, they still haven't recovered. NAFTA's been a terrible deal for the United States. We're renegotiating the deal right now," Trump said. "But it will still be good for Mexico and for Canada. And, when this caravan came in, and this is a caravan of a lot of people coming in and, in this case, from Honduras. If it reaches our border, our laws are so weak and so pathetic, you would not understand this because I know how strong your laws are at the border," Trump remarked to the leaders of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Then, Trump tells it like it is. "It's like we have no border because we had Obama make changes. President Obama made changes that basically created no border. It's called catch and release. You catch them, you register them, they go into our country. We can't throw them out, and in many cases, they shouldn't be here. Many cases they shouldn't be here, and after they get whatever happens over the next 2 or 3 years, they're supposed to come back to court. Almost nobody comes back to court," Trump continued. "They're in our country, and we can't do anything about it because the laws that were created by Democrats are so pathetic and so weak. So, I told Mexico, and I respect what they did, I said, look, your laws are very powerful. Your laws are very strong. We have very bad laws for our border. And, we are going to be doing some things. I've been speaking with General Mattis," Trump added. "We're going to be doing things militarily until we can have a wall and proper security. We're going to be guarding our border with a military. That's a big step. We really haven't done that before, or certainly not very much before. But, we will be doing things with Mexico, and they have to do it. Otherwise, I'm not going to do the NAFTA deal," Trump said, according to Daily Caller. This is tremendously good news for millions of American patriots who have been waiting for President Donald Trump to make a move and use his executive power to secure our borders and deliver the level of security to our citizens that we deserve. In contrast, the Democrats who have blatantly admitted that they like the idea of vast numbers of illegal aliens coming over the border to replace their voting base must be freaking out about Trump's announcement. "Our military will ensure that the steady flow of future Democrat voters coming up from places like Mexico and Honduras comes to an abrupt end. It's time for Americans to realize that Democrats have been slowly taking away our ability to provide a prosperous future for our children with their radical and destructive liberal immigration policies. We can't afford to waste another minute letting illegals flood our country." Once again, Trump is delivering on a huge promise to make America safe again as he kicks immigration and customs enforcement activities into overdrive and now places our military at the border. Thank God for Trump. Obama will freak when he hears what Trump did for anti-gay marriage. Air Force Colonel Barack Obama will freak out when he hears what President Donald Trump's administration just did for an anti-gay marriage Christian Air Force colonel who was removed from command after refusing to publicly recognize the same-sex spouse of a retiring subordinate. No POTUS did more to destroy our nation's Christian heritage than Barack Obama, and the toxic level of hatred for conservatives in the military was unbelievable under his administration. Although Obama left office at the beginning of 2017, his progressive foot soldiers continued his destructive policies in our military until Trump put a stop to it. Now, a new sheriff is in town, and he doesn't like it when the formerly politicized Pentagon picks on Christians in the military. According to Fox News, the Air Force reversed a previous decision to punish a highly decorated and revered colonel after he refused to sign a certificate of spouse appreciation for a retiring Master Sergeant's same-sex spouse. In addition to being removed from command in May 2017, orders were handed down recommending that Colonel Leland Bohannon not be promoted to the rank of general as a retaliation for his conservative Christian values. According to military.com, Bohannon was the commander of the Air Force Inspection Agency headquartered at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico at the time of his dismissal. The Air Force decided to relieve Bohannon of command after an equal opportunity investigator decided that he had discriminated against the Master Sergeant who wanted the certificate for his same-sex spouse. The certificate being requested by the retiring Master Sergeant is not legally required to be given and is not an official document. Bohannon refused to sign the document because it conflicted with his religious beliefs. However, to accommodate the airman, he had a two-star general sign the certificate, according to First Liberty Institute, which is one of the nation's most prominent religious liberty law firms. Bohannon's firing caught the attention of 8 U.S. senators who wrote a strongly worded letter to the Air Force which said in part, Colonel Bohannon has suffered severely on account of the EO investigators' mishandling of his religious liberty rights. The Air Force owes it to him to see that justice is restored, along with his good name. Leave it to the liberal morons that Obama saturated our military with to persecute a conservative because of her religious beliefs. For the idiots that decided Bohannon needed to be relieved of command, it didn't matter that he had flown combat missions in the Middle East and is the recipient of the Bronze Star, the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, and the Air Medal. They only cared about peddling Obama's legacy, hate for Christian values. On Monday, April 2, 2018, Trump's Air Force Secretary Heather Wilson announced that the director of the Air Force Review Board's agency reversed the previous ruling and Bohannon's record will be corrected to show that he did not unlawfully discriminate against the Master Sergeant. The director concluded that Colonel Bohannon had the right to exercise his sincerely held religious beliefs and did not unlawfully discriminate when he declined to sign the certificate of appreciation for the same-sex spouse of an airman in his command, Secretary Wilson wrote in a letter to Representative Vicky Hartzler, RMO. In addition, Secretary Wilson emphasized that Bohannon did his duty to the Master Sergeant by having a more senior officer sign the requested certificate. After the announcement on Monday, Hiram Sasser, General Counsel for First Liberty, said he was pleased with the Air Force's decision. This is clear evidence that the Trump administration is helping to right the ship at the Pentagon, Sasser said. However, we must remember that at every level of the government there are bureaucrats who actively resist President Trump's efforts to preserve and protect religious freedom. I could not agree more with Sasser. Trump is delivering on his promise to stop the attacks on Judeo-Christian values. After 8 years of persecution at the hands of Obama, a ruling like the one in Bohannon's case is truly a breath of fresh air. In my opinion, Trump should advise Secretary Wilson to make an example out of whoever handed down the order to relieve Bohannon of his command.